Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. As a real estate investor, you want to get rich in a niche, but you also want to diversify your portfolio to weather any storm. Today, we're going to talk about one of the oldest forms of investing in real estate. It's a way to diversify by product type, by income stream, and by geography. We'll talk about growing your real estate profits with offshore agriculture on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. With me, as usual, it's our co-host and financial strategist, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
You know, when people think about investing, they think about, little greenhouses and red hotels and buying a property that's going to produce cash flow and tax benefits and go up in value. But one of the oldest uses of real estate ever is to grow things, agriculture. And the challenge with agriculture is that it takes a lot of land, a lot of knowledge, a lot of skill, and that leaves a lot of real estate investors out. In the last few years, we've seen folks rising up to figure out how to gain participation from folks like you and me.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you take a look at real estate, when we think of real estate, when the average person thinks about investing in real estate, because they don't have a lot of experience, they normally just think about residential and usually just about single family homes. That's where most real estate investors start and focus. And then to your point, they go from those little greenhouses and they say, hey, maybe I'll go up to some apartment buildings because they see that, they understand that, and that's a derivative of what they already know. And then maybe if you stick with it, you understand office or retail or all that kind of things. But to your point, if you look back at human civilization and some of the most essential things, and this is a drum we've been beating for quite a while, ever since 2008, we realized that the safest place to be was around real estate that was related to things that were real and very, very essential. And, the term essential didn't mean that much back in 2008, 2009.
Right.
But you hear it all the time as far as essential businesses. And we're in an environment where governments are, by their own discretion, shutting down certain industries and really devastating those industries. Now, we can go, into the politics of all that, and we won't, because it doesn't matter what we think they should or shouldn't do. It's what they do. But there are certain things they absolutely cannot shut down, and food production is one of them, food production and distribution. And so agriculture is a great place to be, right along with energy and, of course, residential real estate. But agriculture has a unique spot.
We've seen the pandemic wreak havoc on certain types of real estate, some office, certainly, and retail and hospitality. But one of the things that we love about residential real estate is that there's always a need. People need to sleep under a roof. And it's the same when it comes to agriculture. People got to eat. And so there's a lot to consider. Today isn't about any particular type of agriculture, although we have a guest that specializes in a couple of different things to get your mind kind of working. But in general, how do you diversify outside of tenants having to get up and go to work and make enough money to pay their rent into something that's got a completely different economic model? We've had a chance to travel around the world and see some agriculture. Just over a year ago, I had a chance to travel to Paraguay, which is in the middle of South America, and it is kind of the breadbasket. A lot goes on there in terms of agriculture, cattle actually, and it was really eye-opening. Today we'll hear from David Smith from Paraguay Ag Invest, who helps individual investors participate in agriculture. So is it time for you to be an armchair farmer? We'll find out next, today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Live nationwide. You're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, ever wished you could go back in time and do some tax planning? Now you can, just like Marty McFly. Lucky for you, a brand new federal law just made this possible with an EQRP to get tax deductions and reduce your taxable income from last year, so you can use that tax savings to invest in real estate, Bitcoin, gold, even your own business. Whether you're a full-time investor, doctor, government employee, even if you have 5 or 50 employees, the EQRP works and is your secret weapon, and now it's retroactive. Hey, I'm Damian Lupo, and we have your solution. By the way, if you got bad advice and used an IRA for an apartment syndication, you are sitting on a U-bit time bomb. But don't worry, there's a solution, the EQRP. The EQRP company is ready to help you get control of your money, kill U-bit, and help you pay way less taxes. Want to learn more about this strategy? Send an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com for my special EQRP report. Paying tax or letting Wall Street suck you dry is dumb. Your first step is freeing your retirement money by sending an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com today.
Hi, this is Garrett Sutton, Robert Kiyosaki's asset protection attorney and the author of Loopholes of Real Estate and Start Your Own Corporation. As an American or foreign-based investor in U.S. real estate, you know we are a litigious society. You know that you need to protect your real estate, paper, and bullion holdings with the right mix of LLCs and corporations. Our firm, Corporate Direct, not only forms these entities, but importantly, we properly maintain them too. If you fail to follow the corporate formalities, you can lose it all in an instant. Corporate Direct is your source for LLC protection and maintenance in all 50 states. Visit corporatedirect.com or call 800-600-1760. Mention the Real Estate Guys for a free bonus. That's 800-600-1760 or corporatedirect.com. We look forward to assisting you at corporatedirect.com.
Hi, this is Frank Holmes, Chief Investment Officer and CEO of U.S. Global Investors, and you are listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, heard every weekend on this great radio station and all the time at realestateguysradio.com. We're talking today about diversifying your holdings with a product that everyone can relate to, and at the same time, not many real estate investors understand, and that's agriculture, the arguably oldest use of real estate. And to help us understand that, let's welcome all the way from Panama, our friend David Smith. Hey, David.
Hello, Robert. How are you this morning?
Quite good, and it's good to see you and hear from you. I know that you have had an interesting time in the last year with the lockdowns and all of that. And, you know, last time we had you on the show, we were talking about how agriculture is really booming and the areas that you guys are in and so forth. But take us through kind of what's happened with COVID and the pandemic.
Well, as you mentioned, I mean, it's been a very challenging year, both professionally and personally. I just recently recovered from COVID.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it wasn't very difficult. I went through it pretty well, you know, and so I'm back up to speed. In Paraguay, we have had certain challenges. Thankfully, nothing too serious. In the country of Paraguay, the government basically had a different sort of protocol with regards to controlling that industry, mainly because a lot of that industry is not such a hands-on group type of business. So you have a wide separation between people, you have a lot of machinery.
Yep.
However, during the pandemic, our CEO, Karsten Fowl, who lives full-time in Paraguay, implemented an even more strict protocol for our employees. And fortunately, there were no serious issues. There were certainly, a number of people that became ill, but they've all recovered. And also, Karsten was very, very adamant about assisting the employees outside of the workplace. So he got involved with the local Red Cross and delivered food packages to many of the inhabitants of the surrounding villages. Not only our employees, but other people that were in need.
Okay.
This took place primarily between April and May of last year. So there were some challenges. I mean, we had to accept a delay of some of the saplings for the citrus fruit coming in a little bit late from Brazil. We also had a delay of some of the specialized staff that we bring in the country from Argentina and Brazil to assist us with the greenhouse operations. Since this is our newest operation, we want to make sure that we have the top specialists there to assist us in this. And that was delayed a little bit. But on the other hand, our produce sales were great.
Okay.
They were really, really good. And this was quite an unusual circumstances. I not living in Paraguay all the time, I'm not too familiar with it. But in Paraguay, when they closed the borders down, primarily between Argentina and Brazil, suddenly the imported vegetables and the imported citrus stopped.
Yep.
So very quickly, our relationships with the food distributors and the supermarket chains increased exponentially.
Well, that's a really interesting point. You know, when I was in Paraguay with you back in December of 2019, you took us to a grocery store and we saw the difference between locally grown peppers, which is a staple in the Paraguay homes, and the big, beautiful peppers that were imported from the neighboring countries. And that was really part of what you guys had been researching. And just so folks understand, if you haven't heard David before, you've been in the business of growing oranges for quite a while. We got to go out and see the orange groves, which was awesome. And then the greenhouses where the peppers and the tomatoes and things get grown. And this was a huge competitive advantage. Before COVID, the competitive advantage is if you're going to import these kinds of things that are grown outside of a country, they're going to be transportation costs and logistics and so forth. And by doing it locally, you're able to give the grocers a better price. In this case, you're the only option.
Well, we were a bit of the only show in town, if you would.
Right.
And the demand was very high. And our response was, we have X amount of produce to send you. You know, we're trying to grow as sensibly as we can. But in the case of the oranges, basically we sold the harvest out immediately. They were gone.
Yeah.
The same holds true with the greenhouses, with the vegetables. For example, the red, yellow, green peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, which we specialize in. They were all ordered. And I think the ultimate result of this was we've really cemented our relationships with the various food distributors and supermarket chains. And we've been able to explain to them our business plan for growth. So this means as we bring more greenhouses online, which is what we're doing right now, there are currently 16 more vegetable greenhouses under construction as we speak.
Wow. And these are big, having stood inside a couple of them, like 0.6 of an acre or something.
That's correct. Yeah. They're big. And so right now we'll have, when those are completed, 24. We have 8 more coming next month, the end of next month, early April. And then following that, we'll have the remainder of 16, which will give us 48 vegetable greenhouses. So what this means for our business plan is that as the greenhouses go online, the orders from our clients increase because we're able to fulfill that. And going back to your point about the imports and so forth, what had happened in Paraguay is that suddenly everybody got this shock, like, oh, where are we going to find these things? And so now what the distributors have told us, they want to redirect their ordering system for local produce from us because we're only an hour away from Asuncion. So the advantages that gives us is, number one, very quick delivery. We can do it in a couple of days,
right,
depending on how it's set up. We can offer lower prices.
Yep.
And the same quality or better as the imports.
Okay.
So this is really, really good for us. This has really made a huge difference, and it happened rather quickly. And so we're we're trying to respond the best we can.
Well, and even before the pandemic, one of the things that was astonishing to me was the fact that even though you've set this up so that you've got great volume and great logistics and the ability ultimately to export to other markets where there's demand, right now, there's so much demand inside of Paraguay that you can't even satisfy that. And I think, probably COVID exacerbated that a bit. So you were struggling with keeping up with demand, but that's understandable kind of in any situation. But looking towards growth, no pun intended, there is a ton of demand locally. Can you speak to that part of it? The fact that everything you guys grow gets consumed in Paraguay at the moment?
Well, it goes back to a couple of things, Robert. You have to think about Paraguay, number one, as an agricultural country. That's simply what they do. I've been asked many times to describe Paraguay, and you've been there, so you have a bit of an idea as well. But my answer is Paraguay is two things. It's a cattle ranch and it's a farm. And that's literally what they do.
Yep.
They have double the population of cattle as they do human beings. About 15 million cattle and about 7.5, 8 million people.
Okay.
So this is what they do. But going back to what we do, we specialize in growing produce that is not traditionally grown in the country. And what I mean by that is if you look on the web about Paraguay, you'll find out that Paraguay is number 3 in sorghum, soybean, corn, wheat. They're 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the world. They grow a lot of these things. Number 6 in beef exports. But none of these are related to growing oranges in long-term investments of trees or in greenhouses, because it's been very convenient over the years to import those from either Brazil and or Argentina. So when Carson began to develop this business plan, he began to target where can we take part of this import market business away. And there's not a lot of options, but the options that are available are quite lucrative and they're quite focused, but it requires long-term investments. And they have massive farms in Paraguay, 500,000 acres and all these kinds of things, but it's all row crops, you see. So you plant it, 6 months later, you sell it, and that's just what they do. So Carson sort of went against the grain, if you will, and decided to do non-traditional types of farming, which can be very lucrative. So all of our produce is basically focused on the Paraguay market.
You have to think a little bit differently when you start to get your mind around investing in agriculture, because it does take time. It takes time to plan it out, find the land. It takes time for the trees and the plants to grow. One of the coolest things I thought when we went out to the orange groves was visually being able to see the difference between a newly planted grove, one that had been there a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And it's pretty obvious that in the first couple of years, there's just not anything going on. The trees are growing. They aren't producing. They start to produce as they get older, and then they have a nice long life of production. And the reason I want to bring that up is a real estate investor buys a fourplex, and it's got income, hopefully, from day one. Maybe they're going to do some things to increase the property's value, and that's going to increase the rent. And so over time, they're going to increase cash flow and therefore the value of the property. But it's up and running. That's different than if I buy, say, a brand new fourplex. Ironically, we're going to talk about that next week. But when you buy a brand new fourplex, it takes time for it to come out of the ground, for the planning, for the building, for the construction, and then the lease up. And yet the offset to that is, well, when it's done, we're going to have a brand new property. Not right or wrong, just two ways of looking at it. So an investor has to be a little more patient if they want the nicest, newest stuff. If an investor is thinking about getting into agriculture, although you certainly could buy an existing farm, and I know sometimes you have folks that want to get out of an investment and that creates opportunity, and normally it goes right away to your current client list. But for the most part, you're planting something new. And so there is this time period. What was astonishing to me is how quickly the greenhouses come online. Now, you just told us about how 8 more are coming and there's 16 more, and there is a process there. So from the time that you quote unquote order a greenhouse, it takes time to get one. But once it's there and it's on the ground, these things get up and running pretty quickly. And I was amazed at the technology. So, David, take us through why a greenhouse makes sense in Paraguay, why you need that to get the better yields.
It's basically due to climate. Paraguay is a very hot place, which you may remember.
Oh, yeah.
It's very hot. On one hand, it's blessed with a lot of water. It has one of the largest sources of sweet water in the world. A lot of aquifers, a lot of rivers. A major portion of the commerce of the country is done by river. I believe they have the second or third largest number of river craft in the world.
Wow.
Amazing. But the temperature itself, it's very, very hot. And when you look at products like oranges, for example, they can do well with that. Even row crops, they can do well with it.
Yep.
But they all have a certain planting time and a certain harvest time. But if you talk about vegetables or strawberries, these are very, very heat and cold sensitive produce. So that's why currently in Paraguay, the importers control the market more or less because they can provide a much better, just as you saw in the supermarkets. You saw the local stuff, the tiny little green pepper, and then you saw a pepper from Argentina, which is 3 times the size.
Yep.
Much more succulent, much more beautiful to look at.
And much more expensive.
And much more expensive. So it's the same thing with the strawberries. It's rather unique in the fact that, they only grow strawberries in Paraguay traditionally about 4 months out of the year. The remaining 8 months of the year, there's literally no availability. And surprisingly, they import very few strawberries because the strawberries are really expensive. Strawberry by and large is an expensive fruit.
Yeah.
But there's those factors, but you also have to remember in general, when you think about greenhouses, what are the major advantages? Number one, it's climate controlled.
Yep.
Number two, you can change the produce very quickly. So it enables you to adjust to the market.
Right.
For example, we see price erosion in this particular product, but we see price increase in another one. We can change.
Sure.
Quite easily. And of course, we can change to our customers' request. If someone says, hey, can you grow for me, an extra portion of peppers? And if they're willing to sign a long-term contract for that, we will certainly try to accommodate them. But ultimately, greenhouses just give you so much flexibility. And many people are surprised to hear that with greenhouses, now you talk about the oranges earlier, about it's a long-term, we like to say generational wealth.
Yep.
We consider it to be a passive generational wealth asset. It's the same with a greenhouse. Literally, if a greenhouse is taken care of properly and renovated in the 10-year cycles, those things can last 30, 40 years. It's just a matter of maintenance and things like that. So again, the greenhouses are also a generational wealth asset.
It's one of the things we love about agriculture. It takes the front end where you've got to pick the products correctly. You've got to make sure the soil is right. And to your point, the weather plays a huge part. But once you've got that down, kind of no matter what happens in the world, vegetables and fruit grow. We're talking with David Smith today about opportunities in agricultural investing. When we come back, we'll talk specifically about how investors can get involved. Plus, we'll play real estate trivia next. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, it's Robert Helms. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. I want to personally invite you to come see an amazing real estate market that combines excellent cash flow, offshore diversification, and what we affectionately call lifestyle investing. Come join me from April 16th to 19th in the beautiful country of Belize. The Real Estate Guys have been bringing investors to Belize for more than 15 years now. And with the Belize airport open again, our discovery trip is designed to show you the market like nobody else can. Sure, Belize is breathtakingly beautiful. The people are wonderful. And wait till you taste the food. But the real opportunity is the real estate investment potential. Demand for offshore real estate has skyrocketed since the coronavirus shutdown. And with retirees looking for lifestyle, the work-from-home workforce able to be productive from afar, and tourism coming back strong, now may be the perfect time to consider Belize as a place to diversify risk in your investment portfolio. There's all types of opportunity in Belize when it comes to real estate investing, including both long and short-term rentals, commercial and retail triple net properties, business opportunities, land acquisition, development, agriculture, and more. And as the only country in Latin America with English as its official language, it's easy to understand the law. Property rights are strong, and contracts are in English. And in Ambergris Caye, a unique situation exists where demand for rentals continues to outstrip supply, creating a compelling environment for investors. So come see for yourself. Join me April 16th through 19th in Ambergris Caye, Belize, as we study the market, learn about the sustainable drivers, and tour lots of beautiful real estate. And like all of our field trips, there are no properties for sale during the weekend. Rather, you'll meet lots of local providers that will help educate you about the market so that you can follow up with them after the trip if the market seems interesting to you. You've heard about Belize on the Real Estate Guys for all these years. Now come see what all the excitement is about. Plus, we'll have lots of time over meals and activities to talk about all things real estate. To get the details, go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on Events, where you'll find the Belize Discovery Trips. Once you register, you'll get information about our group hotel rates as well as travel details. So join me in Belize, April 16th through 19th. It's a beautiful country with lots of amazing possibilities, and the only thing missing is you. Go to realestateguysradio.com under Events, and I look forward to seeing you in beautiful Belize.
Hi, this is Peter Schiff, and you are listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Hey, if you ever want to do bigger deals using other people's money or investing alongside the folks that are doing it, come on out to the Secrets of Successful Syndication. Takes place in March in Dallas, Texas, live and in person. Get all the details on our website at realestateguysradio.com under Events. We're talking today about growing your real estate profits with offshore agriculture. We've got David Smith on the program. Before we get back to the interview with David, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia. Your chance to win a prize by knowing today's real estate trivia question. When you hear the question and think you know the answer, send your best guess to trivia at realestateguysradio.com. Trivia at realestateguysradio.com. The first person that gets it right is going to get an awesome book called Resilience, Turning Your Setback into a Comeback. It's a collection of great stories. And since we're talking about produce, resilience is a great word. Last week on the show, we were talking about market manipulation. Is the real estate market manipulated and what you can do about it? Here was our trivia question. In what country will you find the city of Blowhard? Yeah, Blowhard is a real place. It's in Western Victoria, Australia, located between Creswick and Learmonth. And Blowhard was once a prominent mining area. Back in the 2016 census, Blowhard, Australia, had a population of 84 people. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. Since we're talking about produce and David just brought up strawberries, here's what I want to know. The U.S. grows the most strawberries in the world. What country is number 2? What country is number 2 in strawberries? You can probably tell from the interview so far that it's not Paraguay. They don't grow very many strawberries, but if the U.S. is number 1 in strawberry production, what country's number 2? If you think you know or want to take a guess, send your best guess to trivia at realestateguysradio.com. Include your name, the answer to the question, and your physical mailing address, because if you get it right, we're going to get you this awesome book, Resilience, Turning Your Setback into a Comeback. That's today's real estate trivia question. We're talking with David Smith. He's in Panama, but we're talking about Paraguay. And David, what you guys have done there is extraordinary, having a chance to have toured the orange orchards and the amazing greenhouses. But as frustrating as it may be, You're completely sold out of oranges and you're completely sold out of greenhouses. So that's not just to frustrate the listener. You do have a brand new endeavor we want to talk about, and that is strawberries. So tell us why strawberries and what's happening there.
Strawberries is a very interesting market, especially in Paraguay. As I mentioned earlier, again, it's a question of what is grown locally, how it's grown, and the results of that. The last time I was in Paraguay, which is January, I was with you in December. I went back again in January, and we were going to a supermarket. We were going to show some visitors, the pricing and things like that. Out in front of the supermarket, there was a guy selling strawberries. But you or I would have never bought these strawberries. I mean, they were probably half the size of what we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
And they were very strange form, very small, a bit green, and did not look delicious at all, really. But these were the local strawberries that were grown. And I made a point of pointing this out to Karsten and some of the other people with us. I said, these are some of the smallest strawberries I think I've ever seen. They go, yeah, well, this is what they grow here.
Right.
So this is basically where we are going to bring in and grow these strawberries locally, and we can compete with the imports, because the imports, as I mentioned earlier, are really expensive there. To give you an example, our estimated wholesale price on a kilo of strawberries is about $4.50.
Okay.
This is more or less how we're going to sell it on the local market. The importers is about $7 a kilo.
Wow.
When it's all said and done, 7 or a little bit more. So we see a great opportunity to grow strawberries, not only good strawberries, but we're going to grow them 12 months out of the year. The local strawberries are only available about 4 months. The reason for that is they're grown in very primitive greenhouses.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. They don't have very good irrigation systems. They don't have climate control in a way that we do. And so after that, they just don't grow anymore.
Well, this won't mean much to most of the listeners, but having been there to the two different sites, the orange groves, which are amazing, and recently you've told me that those have been sold out. How it works is you buy real estate. You own the parcel, a part of an orange farm, and then you guys handle all of the growing and the farm science and the nutrients and the watering and the harvesting and the logistics. And I just, as the owner, share in the profits of that. But the greenhouse is different location. We drove about an hour to go to where the greenhouses were going in. You had a few of them up already, but I kind of remember you talking about having some additional land. So talk about where the strawberries are going, what's coming down the road in terms of additional oranges. And then let's talk, David, about how individual investors get involved, because a lot of what you've done over the years has been including other investors.
Yes, we have recently, very recently, sold out of all of the citrus in the Nueva Italia 1 plantation. That's where we have citrus, and also where we have the 48 vegetable greenhouses. Now, across the road, Carson has just acquired another plantation about 4 months ago. It's approximately 260 hectares. So it's well over 500 acres.
Yep.
And on that side of the road, we will continue with the citrus. We're going to continue to offer that type of investment in citrus to current clients and future clients. But that is also going to be the location of the citrus processing plant.
Wow.
That will be across the road. And that will be the location of the hydroponic strawberry greenhouses. We have not determined what the final number of greenhouses will be. We're going to take a little bit different approach with this, because it's a little bit different market. And so we're going to bring in, first of all, 16 units.
And are these the same size as the vegetable greenhouses?
They are exactly the same unit.
Okay.
The only difference is the technology inside it.
Got it.
You're going from earth technology to hydroponic water technology.
Yep.
Now, it makes the price of the greenhouse a little bit higher, but the actual Size of the greenhouse is the same. It's approximately 2,800 square meters, more or less six tenths of an acre. Now, those will be directly across the road from the current greenhouses. We have a little bit of different approach for outside private investors getting involved. And I think that this is a very important point to understand. Our number one goal right now is to implement all of the vegetable greenhouses. This is a big project. We've got to get this done. So we don't want to overlap our focus from the vegetables to the strawberries at this point. So currently what we're doing is we're accepting reservations for the strawberry greenhouses. And then we're going to write the contract, but there will be a delayed funding date, because what we want to do is we want to do the first order of 16 units in June.
Okay.
We're going to start out with 16. So everyone needs to know that at this moment, it's a limited opportunity, because it's a very, very good business, but we've got to make sure that everything is implemented with the vegetables, and then we'll move right into the strawberries.
Now, before we're done, I know you've put together a whole report on strawberries, and of course, the information you have about oranges and stuff readily available. The purpose of today is just to acquaint people with agriculture, get their mind thinking about it. But before we're done, we'll get you the details and how you can get those reports. And then if you are interested in finding out the specifics, there's a lot to learn here. Having spent nearly a week there, you really do have to understand the economic model, how the whole thing works, and the projections and what they're based on. And so we'll leave that for folks to do individually. But the big picture on this, David, is that folks are sharing in the profits, which are quite substantial for the reasons that you've talked about. The efficiencies, economies of scale, producing something that is as good or better than the imports, which carry a high price tag. And so you have the ability as a farming concern to deliver a much better product at a lower price. So that means you've got demand. And obviously we've talked about the fact that at the moment you've got more demand than you can possibly fill. But I know you're working hard to do that. And then I imagine in addition to the strawberry greenhouses, the plan is to plant some more oranges. Tell us about that.
Well, oranges are really our core business. We will probably never stop planting oranges for, who knows, maybe 5, maybe 10 more years. And the reason for that is the processing plant. Eventually, the processing plant will be built probably 2 to 3 years from now. But in order to operate a processing plant, you've got to have a heck of a lot of trees in the ground.
Right.
So we have a plan for that. We just recently completed the planting in Nueva Italia, one plantation of 155,000 saplings.
Wow.
So all of those fields that you saw that were basically barren, they're all full of trees now.
Awesome.
So the entire plantation is planted. And then as soon as the master plan is completed on Nueva Italia 2, we will continue planting that. And also Carson is again looking for more land to continue that.
Yep.
Keeping in mind that the greenhouse business, at least in the short term, is a finite business. We have no plans to increase the vegetable greenhouses. We have no plans for that, because our plan is operate the 48 greenhouses for 2 to 3 years at full production, and then take a look at our market penetration. And then at that time, we'll decide, okay, should we build 4 more? Should we build 8 more? Or are we good? Because we don't want to overproduce, obviously.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And if you think about the size of these things, with the greenhouses that are just been purchased and are on order right now, well over 25 acres. And that's a lot looking at the density. Walking through the greenhouses, and folks, I know you'll make available to them if they reach out some of the videos that we shot down there, but there's just a lot more you can do in a controlled environment. You think about a greenhouse, many people in the U.S. think, well, that's because we plant in areas that aren't warm enough and we want to warm up the crops. It's the opposite in Paraguay. Actually, you do a lot more cooling than you do heating, but it's the same principle. It's a controlled environment, and therefore the stuff grows better, it grows bigger, and it grows more abundantly.
Well, the technology in our greenhouses is fundamentally computer controlled. So the opening of the ceilings, the opening and closing of the roof, the way that the plants are watered, this is all computer controlled. You know, to give an example, in the vegetable greenhouse, we have two water hoses that go in every single pot. One is the primary, one is the backup. Every plant is watered 7 times in 24 hours for 3 minutes. And that's all computer operated.
Wow.
And so when you have this kind of technology, that allows you to grow very quickly and also very good quality produce. So I think that the investors, people that are really interested in this business, it's important that they understand not only the profits that they can make, but how the technology works, because I think it gives them a lot of confidence and they know that they're really buying high technology.
Well, David, this brings up really, I think, the crux of why we're excited about these types of opportunities. For most people, the ability to go in and know what land to buy and be able to buy a big old piece of it and then have the farm science and agricultural understanding to be able to profitably grow and then sell and distribute, that's just a lot. And so in this case, because of the model you've chosen, an investor can buy and own a piece of property that produces either vegetables in a greenhouse or strawberries in a greenhouse or oranges in groves, but not have to, quote unquote, buy the whole farm. They're able to come alongside a bunch of other investors, and together everyone achieves more. You guys get to focus on what you're good at. You're looking down the road at more land and more acquisition, but you're also building up the distribution side, which is critical to get the produce to market. And it's really critical in a crop that is time sensitive, right? If I'm growing wood, okay, well, that takes years and years and years, but once it's harvested, it lasts a while. If I'm growing strawberries, they need to get to market pretty quickly. If I'm growing peppers, they need to get to market pretty quickly. And that's where you guys are really building the infrastructure that's exciting to see. And, you know, you always look at what the competition is. In this case, and we saw this as you took us to the grocery store, the competition is big, beautiful produce that's grown in other countries and either flown or trucked in at huge expense. And so the typical local person makes a decision. Do I want that succulent, huge, beautiful orange pepper? I'm going to pay a premium for it. Or do I want one of those little shriveled green peppers? And you're kind of bringing the better product at the better price. So exciting stuff. If you're interested in finding out more about what David and Carson are doing in Paraguay, all you have to do is send an email to strawberries@realestateguysradio.com. Strawberries at realestateguysradio.com. You get their brand new report on the strawberry opportunity. You also get David's contact information so that you can find out more. They do a great job of getting your questions answered. They aren't pushy salespeople. They're just trying to educate you. And I think as you've demonstrated, David, the product really does sell itself, because just astonished at how many greenhouses you have coming out of the ground and how many oranges are coming out, but exciting stuff. And I understand that we're going to see you in Karsten at the 19th Annual Investor Summit on the Sand.
That's correct. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We haven't been traveling very much. So we're really looking forward to seeing everyone, you and Russ and the entire group from the Real Estate Guys. And we really enjoy ourselves. And so, yeah, I think it's, after such a long time, it'd be nice to get together and just share ideas and things like that. I would like to make one additional comment about the strawberries that is not included in the report.
Okay.
We've been talking to the food distributors and trying to get an idea on demand, things like that. And we've been approached recently by supermarket chains in Bolivia, Peru, some of the others, and they would be very interested in frozen strawberries.
Ah.
This is a very big business. Frozen strawberries, at the end of the day, some people consider this to be a core business within that category.
Okay.
Now, it does require an investment in infrastructure, quick freeze, refrigeration, and things like this. But we're in the very early stages of this. So right now, we don't want to really, say this is what we're going to do. But I can almost envision it because I do know another company. I have a relationship with a company here in Panama that actually does that business.
Okay.
And it's a very good business, the frozen strawberries. So this is something that later on down the road would make our business model a little more interesting because we'd have both the internal market and we could have an external frozen market. And that's one of the things about strawberries that I've discovered. This is kind of a new business for me as well, is that most of the strawberry business done in the world is done with frozen.
All right. Well, we love multiple exit strategies in real estate, so that makes a ton of sense. Thanks for sharing that with us. If you'd like more details on what they're doing down there in beautiful Paraguay, and it is a beautiful place, not a tourist destination, but cattle and vegetables and fruit and awesome stuff. Just send an email to strawberries@realestateguysradio.com. There's David Smith. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you very much, Robert. Have a nice weekend.
You too. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio show. More when we come back. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
In uncertain times like this, it's great to know there are two things you can always count on: high demand for affordable single-family homes to live in, and Terry Kerr's amazing Memphis team at Mid-South Home Buyers to find, fix, and manage the next addition to your recession-resistant real estate portfolio. The Memphis market is logistics and distribution dynamo with an economic engine that's essential to moving goods and critical supplies all over the United States. Quality rehab, proven profitable property management, affordable rents, and solid ROI make turnkey property investing through Terry's team a dream when it matters most. To learn more about Memphis and Mid-South Home Buyers, send an email to midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. That's midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. Hear ye, hear ye. Registration is now open for the Real Estate Guys 19th Annual Investor Summit. Imagine spending an entire week with like-minded investors, world-class educators, and real-world professionals. Returning this year are sales legend Tom Hopkins, the editor of the Gold newsletter Brian London, international real estate developer Beth Clifford, and Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner Kyle Wilson. And joining us live and in person for his 9th Investor Summit, Peter Schiff. Plus, returning for his 9th Investor Summit, best-selling author and the Rich Dad advisor for real estate, Ken McElroy. Plus, lots more to be announced. It all begins June 11th in beautiful Belize. Visit realestateguysradio.com and click the tab that says Summit to reserve your spot. This transformational week is like no conference you've ever attended. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click Summit and make plans to spend a week with the Real Estate Guys, Peter Schiff, Ken McElroy, and an all-star faculty on the 19th Annual Investor Summit.
Hey, it's Kyle Wilson, Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner, and you're listening to the Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you've ever wanted to do bigger deals using other people's money, or if you wanted to invest alongside folks that are doing big deals, then come on out to the Secrets of Successful Syndication right around the corner, end of March. It's a live event in Dallas, Texas. Get all the details at our website at realestateguysradio.com under events. We're talking today about agriculture as a way to diversify your portfolio. And I always learn something when I get around David Smith.
Yeah, I really appreciate his candor. He's really just kind of a straight shooter. He talked about his illness and what was going on and how COVID-19 had affected their industry and their business and how they responded to it, which I thought was great. And one of the things that really stood out to me is this idea that when the borders closed, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't export. But by the same token, the flip side, as we always say, of every challenge is an opportunities. Well, nobody can import. And all of a sudden that makes the domestic market a lot more valuable. But the thing I love about agriculture is, unlike residential real estate, where you really have to get the local market, the local supply and demand dynamics right, you really have to understand the economic drivers, the local employment factors, because you're counting on those jobs to pay your rent. And, we've got eviction moratoriums and things going on as they're trying to protect people from losing their homes because of the economic distress. And yet, you don't see that type of pressure in agriculture. You can grow food wherever and ship it to wherever globally. So you don't quite have to get the local geography right. You just have to get the commodity, the production, and the distribution right. And a lot of that is very, very supported and left open because it's essential globally. I mean, this isn't something that is necessarily one nation's politics. Every country cares about feeding their citizens and sourcing food from wherever they can find it. And when you consider agriculture, South America is one of the best geographies in terms of just natural agriculture. And then you look at the government support, because when it's your major industry, that's the other thing you got to look at. Where are we going to grow this agriculture? Someplace where that's really important to the local government and they're going to be behind it. And that's one of the things that I picked up about David when he was talking about Paraguay, and it's a major industry for them. So the government is committed to the industry as well.
Well, it's interesting too. Paraguay is not a tourist destination at all. They barely have any hotels. It really has evolved around agriculture and cattle production, and that's a big part of who they are. And yet, it's crazy to look at the crops that they have to import because no one's putting in the work to be able to do the things, the row crops and the wheat and the soybeans and all the things that they export, they've just been doing forever. Now, Karsten and David come along and they say, well, what about oranges? All the oranges are imported from Brazil and they're super expensive, and yet we have great soil and the right conditions to grow oranges. Why isn't anybody doing it? Well, they decided they would. And now with the strawberries, same thing. As we travel around, I learned early that you don't try to figure out what fruit you like and go to the fruit stand when you're in different countries. You find out, hey, what's in season? What are they growing? We travel a lot to Belize. If I want to buy strawberries in Belize, it's super expensive. But if I want to buy bananas in Belize, it's really inexpensive because they grow bananas there. So back to your point about not getting the geography right, you don't have to have exactly the right location. You do have to have the factors that contribute to successful agriculture, which is the soil and the rain and the sun and all those things. And that's why you've got to rely on someone to go get that work done. Either you have to be smart enough to go figure all that out, or you can come alongside someone. And we've got lots of people in the real estate guys world that help do that. Today, we just really wanted to open up your mind to agriculture. We talk about it occasionally. Russ, you and I went to an agriculture conference a few years back. We don't go every year, but it really does open up your eyes to another use of real estate and another way to protect your investment.
Yeah, absolutely. We went because we had already taken an interest in offshore agriculture, and we thought, well, let's take a look at domestic agriculture. And we went there, and what we discovered is there's a lot of things that go on in the United States. It's a very diverse economy, and to my earlier point, maybe a little bit less committed to agriculture, and they make it a little bit difficult. I mean, there's, as you know, subsidies have been going on. There's all kinds of regulatory issues. There's a lot of layers of difficulty in American agriculture, and so it just, to me, reinforced the opportunity to go into offshore agriculture. And there's some asset protection and some other reasons why you'd be interested in doing that. But the thing that I thought was fascinating about what these guys are doing is they went into a country that wasn't doing the business at a high level of sophistication. And they were able to bring kind of first world, if you will, business acumen in and do a simple thing like the greenhouses. Let's take a 4-month growing season and make it a 12-month growing season. You triple your production just by using greenhouses. And of course, that's a piece of infrastructure that's very important. Well, how do you get that infrastructure in a country that maybe doesn't have the money? And that's where syndication comes in. You raise money from private investors to go in there and solve a problem. And, of course, we love syndication. And most of the time you think about syndicating a big apartment building or mobile home park or something like that. But here you can actually syndicate greenhouses to triple the production of the land in terms of agriculture. And then you tap into all the benefits of agriculture that we've already talked about. So it's a fascinating business model. Those guys seem to be very straight shooters, and we've enjoyed our relationship with them. I wish I would have had a chance to go down and visit Paraguay. I was going through some personal stuff at the time and couldn't make the trip, but maybe next time I'll get a chance to do that. But I love what these guys are doing, and I love the fact that they've made a way for average everyday investors to get a chance to participate in it.
Well, part of that is because of their background. Karsten is a German real estate guy from a real estate family. family where they've done development and held long-term income properties and so forth. And as a young man, he started traveling to Paraguay with his family. And over time, his dad bought a lot of land, and now it's his full-time residence. And I've been down there to his house and just had a chance to really understand what their team does. And this brings up an important point. If you're thinking about agriculture, just like the first time you invested in fill in the blank, single family houses or retail or development or multifamily, there was a learning curve. And the learning curve isn't necessarily understanding farm science. It is studying the why behind the what. And that's where you want to start. Obviously, if you want to learn about the specific opportunity David and company have, just send an email to strawberries@realestateguysradio.com to get the new report. They'll also be happy to share with you any of their previous reports. They do a good job of putting together the details. They also have very detailed pro formas. And this brings up the other point, which is you got to choose wisely. Just like you need to find a great property manager, you need to find a great farm manager, someone who knows what they're doing. We have folks that have been involved with us in the past that are no longer involved. We don't make a big deal when that happens, but when the rubber doesn't meet the road, when the projections are pie in the sky and don't end up happening, we kind of move away from that. In this case, I think we're moving closer to these guys, having been down there, interviewed their team, seen their infrastructure, and the returns that they're providing. So we don't guarantee anybody on the Real Estate Guys radio program. We're here for ideas and information, but certainly a place to start would be to get that report, strawberries@realestateguysradio.com. Big thanks to David Smith, and we'll look forward to seeing he and Karsten at the Investor Summit. There's still room for you. It's our 19th annual Investor Summit, happens in June. You can find out the details on our website at realestateguysradio.com under Summit. Until next week, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys radio show.